everybody.
Sean and Kelly here with Price and Price Group of eXp Realty. What are we talking about today?
Well, in keeping on trend with October horror stories, boy, do we have a doozy for you.
Oh, here we go.
It's going to be great.
Yes. Okay, you ready for this?
I know I'm ready for this.
All right, so this is a seller horror story. It's going to have...
So it started back in June of 2021.
Oh my gosh.
When this amazing...
This sounds like it's going to be very detailed and scary.
It is, so we better speed it up.
And we should use a PowerPoint.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, sweet. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, so we have a seller situation that came up.
Yes.
This is going to be, there are going to be a lot of lessons that were exhibited in this transaction. So we're going to go through and we're going to explain each one of these.
Yeah, so the PowerPoints, it's all the details are going to take place just on one screen. You'll be able to easily pause, soak in what we've said, the brilliance of it, like let it really marinate with your soul and
especially
brain.
if I'm speaking.
And then move on. If something's boring, then move on to the next lesson. But really, this is fraught with a lot of hard-earned.
Yes. Fantastic seller. It was great. Okay.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
So
you're going to read the PowerPoint.
Starting in June of 2021, June 28th,
yep.
This amazing client of ours bought his home we're in Northern Virginia for $1.86 million.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about the lesson one here.
Okay, so lesson one.
Doesn't even sound like we've gotten far enough for that, but we have.
Lesson one, capital gains. He approached us in March of 2023, saying that he would like to sell his house, that his lifestyle had changed, his friends were moving back to Texas, he's a single guy, he wanted to go to Texas with them, so he wanted to sell the house, liquidate and go back. The only catch is, for capital gains, you have to live in a house for 2 of the previous 5 years. So we were in March, he had to get to June, okay? So his settlement date was gonna have to be on or after June 28th of 2023 for him to not pay his $250,000 in capital, or his taxes on up to $250,000 in capital gains.
You can write up to that much off, right?
As a single person. If you had a family, it could have been 500. So so that settlement date is gonna become important as we go through this story. So that's lesson one, capital gains. 2 of the previous 5 years, you get to write off $250,000 in gains as a single person, $500,000 as a family.
And guys, yes, this is the Northern Virginia real estate market.
Yep.
So he bought his home at 1.86 in the height of the market, right?
He paid more than asking.
Oh yeah, he was competing, right?
Yep.
Just like so many people were back then.
Yep.
He's wanting to sell it in less than 2 years and still is concerned about making hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit now when the market is supposedly in a down state. Okay.
So it should just sit and wait on the market?
No.
All right. So April 13th, what happens?
Okay. So we went live. This is spring, typically a really great time. We went live for 1.9999.
Yep.
We had a lot of activity.
Had a lot of traffic, yes. So just a little bit of background on how we came up with a price point on this. The seller was fantastic. He followed our guidance as we went through the process. He lives in the property is in a very unique situation, both in size of the property and land size.
And the fact that they're all custom, right? So you don't have automatic comps
so it's not
in a situation like this.
Exactly. So we had to go very far to get his comparables to come up with this price, but there was one within a mile of his home, similar age, similar size, similar lot size, completely different property, not in as good of condition, but that property was on sale at the same time for 1.99. So we set that one based up on the comps we did find and the competition, okay? So that number is going to come out important here in a minute. During the first weekend of the property being on the market, we had 40 parties come through, and we received 1 offer. Okay, so here were the details of this offer.
Okay, so offer number 1, they did a lower offer price, lower than ask, and they included an escalation here, right? So sometimes that can be good, sometimes it can't.
This is a case of it wasn't.
Right. So when submitting an escalation, it has to the situation has to warrant it, right? So if we're representing a buyer and we're considering an escalation, we're going to reach out to the buyer's agent, or I'm sorry, the seller's agent, and say, hey, do you have any other offers? Why would we do that?
Well, because like, for example, in this situation, there was only 1 offer. So when this offer came in, even with the escalation clause going up to or above asking price, their actual offer was $50,000 under asking price.
Yeah.
The seller on the first weekend, because there weren't multiple offers, is not going to take a $50,000 haircut when he's got all this traffic coming through and there were still people circling around.
A lot of people loving it,
Yeah.
you know?
So this offer did not get accepted, whereas if the agent had simply come in and put the initial price at the asking price and then escalated from there, they would have gotten the property. Possibly. They also had another red flag.
Yeah, this was the home inspection. That's fine. You know, you can put in a home inspection contingency, but the option was to negotiate or void. So when you put a home inspection contingency here in Virginia, you have two options. You can do a negotiate or void, or you can do a void only. So why do we hate the negotiate void?
So on the seller side, when you have a negotiate or void option, many times a buyer or a buyer's agent will use that as an opportunity to negotiate the sales price down. So they'll give you a price, and then when that inspection report comes out, they start saying, we need this repair, this repair, this repair, and they're going to try to get the price down.
Yes, and keep in mind, all of us real estate agents, we're like kids who play in the same sandbox, right? We know who plays in what corners, and we know what toys they like to play with, right? And
so we knew that this not only had a lower price, but that it was likely that when the inspection came back, it was going to try to get negotiated even lower.
Yeah. So tell me why would I want a void only contract in this situation?
So a void only contract from a seller's perspective is obviously they're not going to try to negotiate, but so I'm the buyer's agent, and let's say we do the inspection, and we get.
Let's say I'm the seller's agent.
You're the seller's agent, and we get the inspection report back, and let's say that there's a $10,000 repair, and the buyer is not willing to take that on. So I, as the buyer's agent, will tell the seller's agent, hey, we're going to void the contract. There's a $10,000 repair. They're not willing to take that on. We're going to go ahead and void the contract and move on to the next property.
I'm going to say, assuming I don't have any other offers that have come in after yours, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. What did you see? What happened? Is there any way we can make this right?
So what happens there is instead of the buyer side instigating the negotiation or start initiating the negotiation,
which I'm like, I roll, they're going to do this.
Yep.
Now I'm
now
like,
the seller's
please.
agent can do that. Now I can't go to her and ask her. I have to come and say, we are voiding the contract. But she always has the right to say, what can we do to make this work? And that does happen quite often.
That's true, because I know I want void only, because if it's $500, they're not going to void over that, right? They're not going to waste anybody's time with that kind of thing.
Or even if it's $10,000 worth of the hinge was off, or the faucet needs to be changed, or something like that. But if it's a foundation issue, or it's something that the seller is going to have to deal with on the next transaction, they may be motivated to go ahead and get this resolved.
I want to know that, because it's not like we get home inspections the sellers don't get their own home inspections, right? Unless they know of something going on. They don't know. So this home inspection is when they know something. So then it's like, shoot, I want to know what you found. Either fix it, make it right. Maybe I'm happy. Maybe I'm like, hey, after we ratified their offer, we got another offer that came in that was $50K higher. Maybe I'm like, okay, sayonara, this one didn't even have a home inspection warranty. Take your information and go somewhere else, you know?
So that's the thing. So this offer had, go ahead.
I'm sorry, keep in mind too, this is state dependent.
Maryland's
being
different.
licensed in the whole DMV area, we're licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia. We can play in this corner in the sandbox in Virginia. We cannot play like this in Maryland. So don't go shopping in Maryland and expect your agent to do this. That's a big no-no. You're not allowed.
So there were some weaknesses to this offer. So the seller decided not to take it.
Right.
All right.
Which is great. He should not have taken
He should not have taken that offer. So now we're about 3 weeks on the market.
No more offers.
No more offers. We've had a few more showings, but they have started to slow down. And so we had a meeting, a heart-to-heart with the seller. And a strategy that we use, or an approach that we use, is kind of our playbook, is if you go for 7 days without a showing, or if you get 10 showings without an offer, that indicates that the property is too high. The price of the property is too high for its condition.
Right.
It was overpriced for its condition. Now, there are 3 things that you can do to help a property sell outside of the marketing. But once you start getting the traffic, we knew the marketing was working.
Right.
So they weren't writing another offer. So what is it? It's either one of 3 things. It is
the price.
Okay.
We can change.
Change.
The condition.
We can change.
We can change. And the location.
You can't change.
You can't change that.
So we have to have a conversation about price and condition. So we took all the feedback, we sat down with the seller, gave the seller the feedback, and we've been giving the seller the feedback all along, so he knew what was going on.
Yeah. And feedback, right? So not only do the agents give us their buyer clients feedback, but they also give us their feedback.
Yep.
They're seeing a lot more properties at all different price points in all different areas.
Like
right?
how are we competing to what they're looking at?
It's extremely important to have good relationships and openness with agents.
Exactly, and the seller's agent needs to really actively follow up because a lot of agents don't provide that feedback unless you call them. So we had all this feedback, we sat down, he had a choice. We could reduce the price to get it to the level of what the condition was, which it wasn't a bad condition, it was just some painting and some outdated bathrooms.
Yeah.
Or we could, he could put the time in and the money in and update the house. And he chose for option number 2.
Yep.
So he put about $10,000 into the property.
Yeah.
And he spent about 3 weeks doing these repairs. Now he's very, very talented. He's a good handyman, so he did a lot of the work himself. He contracted out what he couldn't do. And so it was all done very, very well. He updated the bathrooms and the kitchen.
And let's make a point, okay? Because this is hard for some people to get past. And I've had difficulties with it myself occasionally.
Yeah.
When you're trying to sell something, your house, sometimes you have to make changes that you don't like.
Yes.
You're changing it for as boring, as lame, as unspecial.
You want to make it appeal to as many people as possible.
Exactly. So, and I'm only using those words because it's like, why would they want blank?
Yeah.
Why would they want? It
Doesn't
doesn't matter. When you want to sell it, you give them what they want. Okay. And he did that. He did exactly that.
The seller was fantastic, so he did that. During this time, we have a buyer that's calling us. During this 3 weeks while he's off the market and he's doing these repairs, we have a buyer calling us, hey, when's it coming on the market? When's it coming on the market? When's it coming on the market? So we got to where we were one day before going on the market, and this buyer did not want it to go back on the market. He had seen it when it was previous, and we told him what was being done to it, but he did not want it to go back on the market. So one day before we went back on the market, we received another offer. This offer was for $2.015 million. So he went from 1.95 to 2.015. So he went $65,000 higher for a $10,000 investment.
Just from having seen it before and being told what changes. Like, for example, the natural wood kitchen cabinets were being refinished in white. Things like that. Just that is what made him
make this offer.
Yeah.
So this offer was all cash. Ta-tong! It's beautiful.
What?
So everybody thinks. No finance contingency and no appraisal because it's cash. There's no lender. 14-day settlement, $30,000 earnest money deposit. This was a little bit low for that price point. Usually you want to be about 3 to 5% of the sales price, so they should have been closer to $60,000, but everything else was very
2 weeks,
favorable.
Cash, fine.
Home inspection, 7 days, void only.
Right, we talked about that. We like that.
Seller had no issue with that. He wanted to sell them a great property, so he accepted the offer with one caveat. This 14-day settlement, we're at 6.2. That puts him at 6.16, which is too early for 6.28.
Right.
So we had to do, the buyers offered and the seller accepted what's called a pre-settlement occupancy.
Yes.
Okay. And the reason they did that is because these buyers, they had to be, the reason they had been following up so frequently was because they knew that they had a hard deadline that they had to be into their new place by June 16th.
Yes, their leases were running out on their properties, and this was a multi-generational family.
So they had grandparents and
they had
buyers and kids.
Everybody they had to get moved. And this is completely normal in our area. This is why we have so many huge houses here, is we have a lot of different cultures and there are a lot of multi-generational families here. It's really a beautiful thing.
So we ratified the contract on 6/2. Offer ratified with the pre-settlement occupancy and settlement date on 6/29, which meant what they needed for the 2 years capital gains.
Everybody's so happy.
Everybody is excited. 6/16, the buyers move in with their family and the extended family. They move all their stuff in. They're buying furniture for the property. They're doing
custom furniture for this property.
Yes.
Also, what else did they move in?
Oh, yes.
Their dogs that were
pets.
not allowed.
Yes. So the reason we know about the dogs is on 6/23, we received a request for a leaking air conditioner on the top floor. The seller still owned the property, so he was responsible for the repair. So he went in, took a contractor, went in, did the repair, repaired the sheetrock. When he came out, he reported to us that not only did they have one dog, they had 2 dogs. The dogs were using the bathroom in the house. There was paraphernalia throughout the house. The house was not clean, and this seller was very meticulous. He did all the work himself. He did all the cleaning himself. He was very, he
there
calls
was some
himself
damage.
obsessive compulsive with that.
There was some damaged drywall.
Yeah, there were issues that were happening, so he was not happy. So lesson number 4 is there are a lot of risks in pre-settlement occupancies. We
Similar to a rental, like when you have a rental, if you have an investment property, you know what you're getting into when you're renting it out to tenants, right? And it's similar.
Yeah. Okay. So pre-settlement occupancy risks, you have to understand those because you as the seller get to make the final decision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
and
it comes
you
down
do get
to.
security deposits.
Yeah. And there's protections.
And you would get pet deposits if you knew the pets were there,
Yes.
which that also came to play.
Yes.
Here in the next chapter of this, we'll talk about that.
So settlement day comes, June 29th. I go and I meet with the seller. We sign all the documents. We walk out. We see the buyer's agent coming in. We shake hands, high five. It's great. Congratulations. Smooth transaction. Blah, blah, blah. We leave.
Sean gets home. Everybody signed. We have the signed paperwork.
Yes, the buyers have signed as well.
I'm about to submit it to our broker.
Yes.
We're pouring a shot for our little toast.
Yes, yes.
And then at 5:03 p.m. I get an email.
Give my glass back to Kelly. She pours it back in the bottle.
Put the Casamigos back on the shelf.
So apparently the buyer had initiated the wire funds transfer, but it just had not arrived at title yet. Okay. So
That's okay.
We'll figure it out. Things happen. You know, we all stay calm. We always stay calm in these situations. So the next day we get up and we are talking to title. Title doesn't know what's going on. The buyer has initiated the transfer. He's
like this ended up not being a normal it happens.
Yeah,
this was kind of like a what's
going on here? Yeah. So we did an addendum on Friday, or whatever day this was, on the 30th. The buyer, we knew that he was acting in good faith because he agreed to, number 1, pay the seller's mortgage because now his mortgage payment had just come due.
Right, so that's a $10,000 mortgage.
Yeah. So he paid the seller's mortgage so he could stay in the house because right now he's in default. He's lost his earnest money deposit.
Right,
he
so
did not
go
settle.
back, that $30,000 EMD.
Yes, right here.
Earnest money deposit. Okay, so that is the funds, the deposit a buyer puts on a property. It will be deducted from the funds due at settlement, but if there are some bull bleeps going on,
if he defaults, basically.
bull bleeperies,
yeah,
then he loses that money. The seller gets to keep it all, right?
Yep.
So what Sean is saying is not only did he lose that already effectively,
yes,
the $30K, he's also coming out of pocket for $10K for the seller's next mortgage payment, which he would not have had to pay.
Yep.
And then has agreed to a $20K additional EMD,
Yep.
right?
To buy himself 2 weeks until
for
7/17.
only 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And in that addendum, he's issued an automatic release of all of these funds if he does not settle in this next 2 weeks.
Yep.
So we didn't think there was a whole lot of any kind of bull bleep going on because that's $50K,
There's
right?
just something weird happening with the money.
Yeah.
And the way that a wire transfer works is when the wire transfer is released from one financial institution on the way to the next one, if it's over $10,000, it goes to the Federal Reserve. It goes somewhere. It goes to the feds, and they basically scrub it. They want to make sure there's no terrorist links, there's nothing illegal going on, no IRS debt or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
there's a whole lot of fraud that goes on in mortgage and in real estate, so there are a whole lot of protections, and that's what.
So this basically got held at that location.
Right.
Okay. So he enters in, get another $20,000. On 7/17, the funds still are not there. On 7/20, the buyer says, I'm not going to be able to get these funds. He still hasn't disclosed what happened there, but he went ahead and voided the contract. The seller received the entire $50,000. The buyers had to move all of their people out. They had to pay an additional $3,000 in repairs because of the condition of the home. They had to return it to pre-occupancy condition.
Can we just take a moment for all of us to pray in our hearts for this man? Because not only did he have all of this stress going on, but he's out of pocket at least this much, what, 53K, 63?
Yeah.
And he's got a wife
who's freaking out.
Who's probably, I mean, I can't even imagine. Not only that, I said multi-generational, children and his mother-in-law.
Yes, it was his wife's parents.
Is moving with them in this whole situation. And I'm just like, oh my God, will you please bless this poor man's heart? Because I don't know too many people that could hold up in that kind of situation.
I know I wouldn't. So yes, it was a bad situation. The buyer, hopefully everything works out for them in the long run.
Yeah.
They did end up moving out of the house. We were off the market for an additional 10 days while the seller went in and did all these repairs and hired the contractors to do what needed to be done.
But he's pocketed some money.
Yeah, he's pocketed $65,000, so or
Yep.
63. So it's like, okay, it's a win for him.
Yeah.
Then we go into back on the market. We're on the market for about 2 or 3 days.
Yep.
We ratify our third offer.
Yeah.
Offer price 2.05.
Look at that, would you?
So he's got another 35,000 on top of the previous one. So now he is he's $100,000 higher than his
Yeah.
initial offer because of the work that he put into it.
Yeah.
There was a finance and appraisal contingency. There was no inspection contingency.
We were so happy it wasn't a cash offer. We're like, yes. Thank you.
So, whoops, I'm jumping all over the place. So basically, everything was good on that. Now, here's the catch that happened now.
Yeah.
Go back to...
We're talking about appraisals, right?
Yes.
Okay, and how an appraisal price valuation is a snapshot, right?
Yes.
It's a picture of
It's
a moment in time.
Yep.
Okay, so explain that.
So on April 13th, we told you we had to pull these properties that were from far away, and we had that one that was a direct comp that was real close. Well, that one that was a direct comp that was really close ended up selling for 1.7. So
okay,
now,
remember that comp was 1.99, which
Yes.
is where we got our price, and it's like, oh, okay, ours
Yeah.
was better.
so
Not
it's
too worried.
easily appraised for this, even above if we go above.
Oh
But
my
now
gosh.
we have to justify over $300,000 in equity above what this price was. So that came into the appraisal package, which we do for all of our sellers. We put very specific information in there.
Yes.
We provide the appraiser with properties that we feel support the price, and then we make reasonable.
Right. We point out the things that aren't necessarily readily visible
Yes.
to the appraiser who's going in there. It's there however many houses a day.
Yep.
We're not allowed to have a conversation with an appraiser, and nor is the lender, right?
Yep.
They're not allowed to do that, which is great. It's a very hands-off, there's
It's
a word
objective.
for that.
It makes it third-party objective. Yeah.
But an appraisal package is huge, and a lot of appraisers really, really appreciate it. Not all sellers agents do that. And so Sean will always ask, if we're representing the buyer, we'll always ask the seller's agent, hey, do you have the appraisal package ready for the appraiser? If they say, oh, no, we're not going to do that. We're not, some of them say, we're not allowed. And it's like, okay, well, we'll make one, and we'll make sure it's there.
But that appraisal package is very
It's
important.
huge. It's really huge.
Because as you know, the appraiser determines what the value of the property is, which is what the lender will lend on. So if the borrower is getting 20%, they're going to get 20% of either the appraised value or the sales price, whichever is lower.
Yeah.
So the deal could have fallen apart with a low appraisal. Luckily, we appraised at value. We were able to support the price, and everything closed. And
and another note on sales price and appraisal price, I mean, it's kind of similar, right? Is a lot of times in this market, people, they don't want to pay these prices, but what they don't understand, this is a caveat, right, or a side note, is that setting the new market price. So I mean, I'm not saying anyone should be excited to overpay for anything, but certainly be excited to go in and be like, look, not.
That's a really good point, because he overpaid here, and now he just
set the
sold.
bar.
He set the bar. And then he just sold here, almost $200,000 in profit in a year.
So all these houses around him, they're like, oh, thank you.
Yes. So happy ending. Took a long time. It was a 4-month process.
Like, this was filled with horror stories.
Yes, it was filled with horror stories, but we did end up with a happy ending. We ended up with a ton of lessons, so hopefully you guys have picked up on that.
I'm so thankful our seller was a single guy with no kids and no job that he had to be at a certain time for. I mean, there were so many little small blessings in the mess of all of this.
Yes, absolutely.
It was good.